10 signs you're an INFJ, an MBTI personality type making up only 1 to 3% of the population. In other words, are you super rare? Be sure and watch to the end because if you relate to all 10 of these signs, you just might be an INFJ. Number 1, you absorb the feelings of others. INFJs are known to absorb the feelings of others around them. As a matter of fact, if you don't know what I mean when I say absorb the feelings of others around you, you might not be an INFJ. As an INFJ, you can probably also put yourself in other people's shoes pretty easily. Now, this is empathy, right? And empathy is typically thought of as good, and it is. But let me tell you, to the INFJ, it's sometimes like carrying around a bag of lead weights. I mean, it really weighs you down. So this empathy weighs us INFJs down because a lot of times people's emotions are not positive. And as INFJs, we absorb both positive and negative emotions. And while negative emotions do wear us down more, I think that even positive emotions can get to us and tire us out. Number 2, you love to learn. Now, while most people binge on Netflix, you may binge on self-help YouTube videos and nonfiction books. Now, this doesn't mean that an INFJ can't enjoy TV, but what it means is that the INFJ is typically looking for a deeper meaning in the TV shows or the movies that they enjoy. It's the same with fiction books. We're looking in there, we're thinking, what's the purpose of this? What's the deeper meaning of this book? What does it mean for humanity? What does it mean for the world? Now, another thing to remember is that our judging function makes us constantly demand the best from ourselves, and that can actually result in perfectionism. But I want to tell you something. As an INFJ, you're probably already outperforming everyone involved in whatever activity you're interested in, so consider taking a step back and loving yourself. So if you have an exhausting drive for self-improvement and learning with a little bit of perfectionism thrown in, you just might be an INFJ. Number 3, you quickly see what people are up to. Now, I don't mean you see what people are up to. I mean you see what people are up to. You know when someone is schmoozing someone to get ahead. You know when someone is worried or upset. And you know when someone says yes to you, but they really mean no. And you might even call them out on it. They, of course, will be shocked that you picked up on their subtle cues, which probably nobody they've interacted with in their life has been able to do before. So how does this happen? INFJs pick up on body language, voice inflections, subtle movements of the eyes, and well, a lot more. And they just somehow know what someone's hidden intentions are. Sometimes we don't even want to know, but there it is. If you pick up on people's motives and agendas easily, you just might be an INFJ. If this video is helping you, consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the INFJ Circle. Number 4, you immediately connect single events with other events. When an event happens, an INFJ will quickly connect that event to others that they've experienced to form a prediction about future events. In other words, INFJs are looking at a situation to see how it will play out in the future. If one thing happens, then we know that it will lead to others down the road, and we try to guess what the final outcome will be. Oh, and we're very, very good at it. For example, let's say that our friend tells us that their current boyfriend used to be wild, he used to be unfaithful to his other mates, but now that he's with them, he's over all that. Automatically, we're going to think back to the times that we've experienced or heard of situations like this. And if they generally turned out negative, then we'll extrapolate that the same negative outcome is likely to happen to our friend. So if you often see an event and then you think about what the future outcome might be, you just might be an INFJ. Number 5, you hate small talk. Do I have to say this again? INFJs hate small talk. We find it useless and we find it boring. And this also means that at times as an INFJ, you might take a conversation too deep, too fast, just to get away from small talk. Even talking about small talk right now has got me bored. Moving on. Number 6, you are constantly seeking to recharge. Now, when I say recharge, what I mean is that when you spend a significant amount of time with people, you need to come home, you need to be alone, and you need to gain some energy back. Now, some might call this resting, some might call it lazy, but it's really just spending some time alone with ourselves and with our thoughts. We actually don't just need this, we actually have to have it, because if we don't get it, we're going to become bitter, we're going to become resentful, and we're going to become disinterested in both our projects and in our lives. So one little tip I want to give you is when you need to recharge, recharge. Read a book, take a walk, do whatever you need to do. Don't allow that guilt-inducing self-talk to make you feel bad because you're not doing something productive.
You're lazy, Jay. You never get things done.
The truth is, INFJs have to recharge. So when you do it fully and do it without guilt. Oh, and if recharging sounds familiar to you, you just might be an INFJ. Number 7, I just don't know how I feel, man. Now, I'm talking to you ladies, too. The truth is, us INFJs can pick up externally expressed emotions like clockwork. We are pros at it. But when it comes to how we feel in here, well, that's a bit tougher. The way I explain it is that I almost feel like I'm not important enough to make a decision like how I feel for myself. I mean, I need to know how everyone else feels before I can make a decision of that magnitude. Wrong. The truth is that we have every right to know how we feel independently of how all the other people around us feel. We don't need permission to have our own opinions, to have our own feelings. So how can we get at these internalized emotions? How can we truly know how we feel? Well, one of the best ways is to actually write down how you feel and then read it back to yourself. But if you don't have time for that, I've found that consciously asking myself, in my head, not out loud, how do I feel about this situation right now? You don't have to do this. Now, the emphasis here is on I. How do I feel? Not how others around me feel, not what everyone's going to think about my decision or if they're going to like it, but what do I truly feel? Doing this has helped me to look at my internal emotional opinion on something like it's been externalized. And after you do this, don't think about your decision. Trust your gut and your own opinion. Own how you really feel. Number 8, all or nothing mentality. INFJs don't like to settle. Settling feels like, well, settling. That means taking less than possible, making do, coping, getting by, getting along, making ends meet, making out, managing. Are you depressed yet? So now you know how an INFJ feels when they give a half effort to something. I mean, if you're going to do it, right? INFJ mentality is pretty much summed up by this quote from the Earl of Chesterfield, Philip Stanhope. Whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. Or maybe even the more powerful words of Ayn Rand. Anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Yeah, that's probably more in line with the INFJ. So if you think in terms of all or nothing, you might just be an INFJ. Number 9, you're a great listener. Let's be honest, I don't know what percentage of the population is made up of great listeners, but it ain't much. So INFJs are great listeners, and don't confuse us with the fact that we always want to listen to what other people have to say, but we just do listen because we care about that person. In order to care about somebody, you need to listen to them. INFJs truly do care about the well-being of others, and you can tell that by the way they pay attention to you. Sadly, some people think that because you're listening to them, you must be some kind of a passive pushover. In other words, they kind of think you're a human garbage dumpster, and that they can dump all of their emotional drama, their problems, and their issues into you without you saying anything in return. But then when you do add to the conversation, when you actually do try to help them, a lot of times they get very upset and they're shocked about it. And they say,
"This dumpster just talked back to me."
And at that point, they usually run away from you like the dumpster just caught on fire. So if you're a great listener and it sometimes feels like you're a garbage dumpster for other people's emotional problems, you might be an INFJ. Number 10, INFJs doubt they are INFJs. Now, this is one I haven't heard mentioned often, but I actually think it's a pretty good indicator on whether you're an INFJ or not. So INFJs have a tendency to overanalyze, over-research, and overthink. And from my experience, many INFJs wonder again and again if they are really an INFJ. I mean, that might even be why you're watching this video. Now, this could be perfectionism again in a sense, thinking that what you're thinking isn't backed up by enough evidence to know for sure. So again, I say you are a great thinker. So replace that doubt with trust in yourself and trust in your conclusions. And remember that INFJs in general need to be more action-oriented. So when in doubt, try being more decisive, more assertive, and you'll probably end up in about the right place. In fact, the INFJ mantra of this video is done, not perfect. So consider not overthinking the thing, but doing the thing. You know, INFJs are one of the rarest personality types, so our lives can get pretty difficult and pretty lonely sometimes. But every week I send out an INFJ-inspired email that has to do with philosophy, psychology, history, ancient wisdom, everything you need in order to live a better and more connected INFJ life. If you'd like to join a growing group of INFJs who want to learn, grow, and belong, consider signing up for my weekly newsletter. The link is in the description. And if you'd like to know the 8 INFJ rules that really truly changed my life, consider watching this video next.